to the happy hour live at 5. We are talking the Clippers extending Ty Lue. There's a little bit of chatter about a possible Zubac extension on the way. So we're going to break down that, get your guys' thoughts on everything. But in case you missed it, this is Clips and Dip. I am Chuck Mockler, usually joined by Adam Oslin and William Updike. They are unavoidably detained. We're going to try and get some random other people in here, so it should be a good time. But yes, if you're listening on audio, you missed the YouTube live. We're hanging out. It's Wednesday. It doesn't feel like a Friday at all, but the Clippers made some moves, and we're going to talk about it. We have our first YouTube comment saying, "I hate it." That doesn't make any sense. I don't. Steve Rodriguez is on the chat saying he hates this. I don't hate it. I think it's a pretty good move. He's a very good coach. He has had a healthy team not very often. He can't coach Kawhi Leonard's knees. I wish he could. I think he would be a great knee coach. But it's a who else was going to coach the Clippers? The other thing I think to consider, what's up, JBows84? I think the other thing to consider with this is, we saw Dan Craig leave. I'm assuming he left probably because he maybe knew this extension was coming, or just figured, I want to be a head coach, maybe somewhere else. So he went to a worse team. But I think re-signing Ty Lue is a good idea. This I absolutely cannot, Steve. But the team was cooked either way. So I don't think we can use that performance. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like him playing PJ Tucker was a good move. It was a bad move, but the Clippers were probably not winning that series without Kawhi Leonard. So I don't think again, he had to make a move because Kawhi Leonard was hurt. I don't know who else people wanted to come in and coach this team. I don't think Ty Lue re-signs a deal with a team that's like blowing it up in any way. Some people in the chat are asking what this means for PG's free agency. All the reports are saying that, the Clippers want to run it back with, James Harden and Paul George. Let me see there's a quote today from the Woj article. Here we go. Joey Lynn had the tweet up. Said the Clippers are determined to keep Paul George and James Harden in free agency, and the organization moves into the new state-of-the-art arena. We'll see what happens with the PG contract. What I think is going to happen is I think he's going to end up getting a max and then probably ends up getting shipped out somewhere. That's based on nothing, but that seems like where we are. But I think re-signing Ty Lue is a good move. He's one of the top coaches in the NBA. He's been dealt a rough hand. Sure, he makes frustrating decisions. No coach is perfect. I don't think there is a coach that's perfect for a team whose two stars are consistently unavailable. I don't really know. You can't really talk me out of this being a good idea, mostly because A, it's already happened. So I'm not sure what we're supposed to do there. And B, Steve Ballmer loves him. We've heard him quote about it. We've heard quotes about that from him. We've heard Ty Lue talk about how much he loves it here. So it shouldn't be a surprise. If anyone can offer a good alternative to a team that's going to be running it back again and again and again, I'd like to hear it, because I'm not really sure who comes in and coaches this team in a way better than Ty Lue that takes them further with the personnel issues they have in terms of health. So I don't know. I think it's a good signing. There was no one to promote after Dan Craig left. It seems like, I don't know. I will say how can I phrase this? We heard Lawrence Frank talk, like, what was the quote? Like, we know we can't just run it back. Let me run it back. What did he say? We know we can't just run it back. Or something like that. Like, we can't do this whole thing again. It does feel like we're kind of leaning into that, right? So at this point, we have Kawhi Leonard back. We have Ty Lue back, which kind of no matter what I think was going to happen. And we're waiting on Paul George to hopefully take less than the max. And we need James Harden to take like 3 for 110. And then we would officially kind of be running it back, which is a little terrifying because we're locked into that second apron. So I get the trepidation from that standpoint, but I think there's moves to be made if they do run it back to start this season. Why not Clippers with the comment, does this mean L. Frank will be gone? Something needs to change. This kind of jumping off this take and this idea, there's absolutely a disconnect right now between the front office and Ty Lue. I don't know whose fault it is, but we've seen them publicly in the press say different things about what they want to see from this team, right? They didn't want a guy like Russell Westbrook, then Ty Lue and Paul George, to Jay Bose's point, commenting how, Ty Lue really likes Paul George, campaigned for Russell Westbrook. So there is some friction. I don't know who fixes the friction between the front office and the head coach. I guess that's Steve Ballmer's job or whatever Lee Jenkins is doing. He can mend this. But there is, this is a good point, why not Clippers? Because there does need to be a get on the same page retreat of some kind. Go to the desert, no phones, figure out how to build a fire and put a shelter together. And then maybe we'll get the roster where these things work, right? We saw Ty Lue play Moses Brown kind of out of spite. We saw Lawrence Frank kind of trade Reggie Jackson and John Wall and these point guards away that Ty Lue was using. So it's been this weird back and forth clash of ideologies. So I think why not the Clippers brings up a good point here. Something does need to change. I don't know if Lawrence Frank is going anywhere. I don't know if that's the big change. That's a monumental change. But it's something to keep an eye on. When we get to the draft and we get to kind of seeing maybe what can happen in free agency. Again, the Clippers are really hamstrung with what they can do in actual free agency. And maybe we'll hear some quotes come about what this team needs, and hopefully they'll be on the same page because there is some friction there. Greggy, what's up, Greggy? I feel like he's always in these chats. Greggy's bringing up something that is a fair point. It's going to be a problem if we don't give the young guys. We do have some playing time if they find a way to get rid of Russ, Plum, and PJ, or potentially if PG is also gone. The other big knock on Ty Lue, which I do agree with, again, no coach is perfect. The young guys are never getting a shot on this team, which is a little difficult. Greggy mentions getting rid of Russ. I would love it if Russ didn't opt into his player option because we have Bones Highland, who had some body language and vibe issues during the season. Again, not going to sit here and pretend that was all rosy. But I think there was I just think that was he left it. He wanted to get out of Denver for playing time. He got playing time and make the Harden trade. Russ has to be convinced to go to the bench. And that leaves Bones Highland out to dry, mostly because Ty Lue, through either trying to make sure the locker room was okay or favoritism or a little both, played Russ as the backup point guard. So, Greggy, I agree there's a young guy thing. There's only 2 young guys who could make an actual impact next year for the Clippers, and I think that is Bones Highland, obviously, and then probably Kobe Brown. I don't really think Jordan Miller is going to get the time that some people want, but I think we've seen more from Kobe Brown at the NBA level. Again, not a whole lot of it, but it is more than what we've seen from Jordan Miller. And Bones, we've seen a whole lot of him being effective. And selfishly, he's a lot more fun to watch play basketball than some of the other Clippers. So yeah, I would agree that there needs to be some young guy integration into the Clippers roster. Existing young guys, because it's not like we're, whoever we get at 46, which we can talk about too if anyone has any 46 pick ideas. I'm not going to shoot any of them down because I have no idea who we should take at 46. Oh, damn. Okay, I will say, admittedly, I forgot Kai Jones. That's my bad. Kai Jones stands. Please don't dox me or whatever you guys do. Kai Jones also on that list of the guys who should probably get more of a shot next year. We're going to see him in Summer League. I think Summer League is kind of designed, for guys like Kai Jones's player type to excel. I think Kai Jones is going to have a really fun to watch Summer League. Will that translate to actual being good for an NBA team? I don't know. I hope so. Well, the Clippers need all they can get, but he's a big guy who is athletic, and that is the Clippers issue. Lawrence Frank pointed that out. So, Greggy, thank you for checking me. I meant no disrespect to the Kai Jones army. So it's Kai Jones, Kobe Brown, and then Bones, I think, are the three young guys who should get more playing time from Ty Lue next year. That would be a nice change from what we have seen from Ty Lue. Shar is asking, could Bones be traded? Lue didn't seem to want to play him, and there's no reason to keep him if Harden and Westbrook are taking all the point guard minutes. I think he could be traded. I would feel bad for Bones if he was traded. His worth seems like it's not the Clippers. I don't know what the Clippers are trading for to help the team by getting rid of Bones, I guess. Like another second round pick. That doesn't really. So let's just keep Bones then. We need more youth. The big if here is if Harden and Westbrook are taking all the point guard minutes. So Harden, obviously, hopefully, is taking those point guard minutes because there's no one on the roster now, and there's no one who I think they can add who would be better than James Harden. But if Westbrook is gone, maybe on a team where he gets more minutes and stuff like that, then it opens the door for Bones. I mean, if Westbrook is not on the team, I think it makes sense to assume that Bones is the backup point guard because there's no one else who can or should play point guard. So yeah, the knocks on Ty Lue are all ones that I do mostly agree with, right? Like the young guys should maybe get a little more playing time. Why on earth would you ever play PJ Tucker? And I guess I wish he learned how to do surgery so he could be more useful for the team. I don't know. But the Ty Lue thing, it was a good decision. Forgotten LOL Cal says, I think it was a good decision. Well said, Forgotten LOL Cal. Yeah. Thank you, Blood Orange Cheers. Y'all hit that like button. Appreciate that. If you have your Ty Lue takes, drop them in the chat. JM1324 says, would you trade Bones Highland for Quentin Grimes and do a 3-team deal with Orlando where Terrence goes to Utah, Norm goes to Orlando, and the Clips get John Collins and second-round picks? No, I don't think the Clippers – I don't think – no, because just no. I think the Clippers need to keep Terrence Mann and Ivica Zubac on this team as long as possible. There is a Zubac extension looming, apparently. That was the other part of the things that we heard today that like they're kind of maybe working on an extension for Zoo. I was on Twitter. I had some fun at the barbecue. And I tweeted out that I think 4 for $100 for Ivica Zubac makes sense for all parties involved. $25 million a year with the cap going up for a young center who's available and has been in the same coach's system for a very long time. Seems worth it to me. He's very good. He was the Clippers' second best player in the playoffs this year. I don't know. I think that's worth it. I hope that happens. But keeping Terrence and Zoo, those are guys that you need as an organization. You need some homegrown guys, right? I know we traded for Zoo, but he was basically homegrown. We drafted Terrence very late. Those are the kinds of guys you need on your team to make the team better. I don't know how else to put that without sounding like an idiot. Terrence is making $11 million per year right now, which is vastly underpaid. He's an unrestricted free agent. After this season, he could hold the Clippers over a barrel. So could Zoo. But I hope they get it done. I hope they get the Zoo thing done. I hope he's happy. He doesn't rock the boat. I know Zoo can be a polarizing figure with some people. I don't fully understand why. Maybe it's his body language. When he gets pouty, it's a little ugly to watch. But I love Zoo is good for this team. He's one of the few same guys we've had who's also good. And I think it's very hard. As a Clippers fan, it's hard for me to hear just logically getting rid of guys who are young, available, and get better. Because those are guys that the Clippers don't have. They have like 2 of those guys, and it's Terrence and Zoo. And they're young by Clippers standards. Blood Orange Cheers saying, let's go Knicks. Is there a potential Knicks and Clippers trade for Paul George? I don't think so. That was floated last year that it was like these picks. I think Julius Randle, but then it came out that it was like the picks were heavily protected because of Paul George wanting a max contract. So I don't know if that offer's gotten better from the Knicks, which makes sense. Giving Paul George a max contract is a difficult pill to swallow. So I do not think there is a potential Knicks and Clippers trade for Paul George. If there is, it probably involves Julius Randle or something. And I think both fan bases go, okay, all right. But I don't think that's really there. Greggy says, how do you feel about the idea of moving PG and Kawhi back to the 2 and 3? I think they might have to. I take that back as soon as I said it. I don't want Paul George handling the ball anymore. He can't do it. He just can't. He can't be the 2. Lawrence Frank mentioned needing to get maybe another wing, so I think they're going to try and get another athletic 4 maybe, or I don't know. It's a very good question. I could see them maybe doing it, but at the same time, I don't know if Ty Lue wants to deal with that, because who do we bring in at the 4? We're so shallow at the 4 that it just doesn't feel like we have enough on the roster to do that, if that makes sense. It's a totally legitimate question. But I don't know if the Clippers have enough at the 4. They can't really sign anyone who's that good because of the salary cap to start a guy at the 4, which sucks. So I like the idea of that. I just don't think they're able to do it because of how the roster is currently constructed. Steve Rodriguez is fuming about Ty Lue. He said, why would he want to leave a job where basically any mistakes he makes get forgiven by the idea that Kawhi is injured? He wasn't going anywhere. I like that he's using the idea that Kawhi is injured. Kawhi was injured. It wasn't an idea. The medical staff didn't think he was injured. He's very much injured. We can't. Kawhi is very good. We can't rewrite history here and say he's been healthy. And yet, why would he want to leave that job? I don't know. The idea that Kawhi, I wish it was an idea that Kawhi is injured. The man is really hurt. So was Paul George. Old man Yen says, if PG walks, do we have other options? Not really. The way that the second apron is set up is such that if we lose, so Paul George and his 40 whatever million, if he just opts out and then leaves, the Clippers do not now have a $40 million hole they can fill up. So no, not for max guys. They don't have other options. If Paul George leaves, I think some other things need to happen, but then we can get under the under the second apron, and then we get the mid-level exception back, or one of the mid-level exceptions back. So the other options aren't good. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like losing Paul George for absolutely nothing is good. It's not ideal. If he does sign the max, again, this is not an original take. I think maybe we see him moved. JBo's84 saying, come on, Larry Fingers, do your magic and give us another rebuild on the fly. Just rebuild it. It's very simple. You just rebuild the team. But a good way to rebuild the team is you keep the coach and you keep your young, good defensive center who's gotten better every single year, and then you re-sign Terrence Mann. That is a good way to kind of start the rebuild. If anyone has any draft ideas, drop them in the chat. I've seen hundreds of different suggestions, and I cannot tell you which one I like more or which one I like less. If you're just jumping in the stream, we are talking Ty Lue signing a long-term contract with the Clippers. If you hear me say calc, it's just short for calculator. I feel pretty good about this signing. JBo's84 saying, build around Zubac. Don't know about that. But he has been a useful piece in building around Paul George and Kawhi. Chunk Sampson. Usually love when Chunk Sampson is in the chat, but he's saying DeRozan will be a Clipper. I hope not. There are reports that DeRozan and Chris Paul are some targets for the Clippers. And that doesn't make any sense. They're old and slow, and this team is already old and slow. I don't know if adding older, slower players is the right call here. Nick Batum's a free agent. Why don't we just sign everyone who is old and used to be a Clipper? right? The old guy, it's insane. I don't want people retiring here. We already had Paul Pierce. We don't need to like keep doing these like weird diet Paul Pierce types. It's not going to be that bad. But we don't have to do those kinds of signings, I don't think. It's not needed. Greg, yes, no more old guys. Please, we don't need it. We need to keep our young guys. We need to keep Terrence Mann, Ivica Zubac, and Bones Highland. He needs to be proven a little bit more, though. And we need to go from there, and then we'll trade Paul George for whatever. JM saying, what about a Matisse Thybulle trade for PJ Sucker at seconds? Who doesn't do it? I don't know who doesn't do it. Does that even work financially? Let's look at Matisse Thybulle's contract. That does work financially, I believe. That's very funny. Yeah, I guess do that. Where'd that comment go? Would the Blazers do that? I have no idea. They're bad. You might be onto something here. I don't think they would do that. Their team is very bad. Game started. 19 games for him. He was not very good, but I guess he's young. I don't know. Sure. Just get him out. Just get PJ off the team or waive and stretch him. If the Clippers waive and stretch PJ, his 11 mil becomes like 3 point whatever, and that's fine. And he's away from the team, and he can't corrupt Bones Highland and how he feels about not getting playing time, which is a conspiracy theory I will hold forever. Yeah, so Chunk Sampson, this is where we are. We're in a rock and a hard place. Chunk Sampson is asking, but we basically have to sign PG to a max. So you're saying that's what we are doing? Yes, that's what kind of sucks about the whole second apron thing. The Clippers are stuck. There's no flexibility. There's flexibility in the context of a stuck team, if that makes sense. Like, oh, they got a little bit of wiggle room, but there is no real flexibility here. They kind of have to sign Paul George to a max. Because if you don't, he's just gone. And while that cathartically might feel good for some Clippers fans, on the court, it's rough. On the court, it is a worse team. And again, they can't just fill in that spot with that money. So, yes, it kind of sucks. I'm going to take a quick audio break. If you're listening to the audio, need that ad money, and we'll be back in 2 seconds. All right, we're back on the live. No harm, no foul. Thanks for hanging out. We're talking Ty Lue signing a long-term contract to remain the Clippers coach. Clue Wave Cool says, at least with Kawhi, we know it's injury. Never have to question his want and ability. PG is an inconsistent wind with identity issues. Wow. Calling someone an inconsistent wind is maybe one of the harsher things I've ever heard. Well played. Did you mean to call that person? Did you mean to call Paul George an inconsistent wind? That feels so mean. That's like soulfully mean. Maybe I'm losing my mind, but if someone called me an inconsistent wind to my face, I'd feel like I just heard a flashbang go off. Well said, Clue Wave Cool. I don't know if I'm going to the point of calling Paul George an inconsistent wind. But I might. That is brutal. I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. Steve Rodriguez said, yeah, Lucas said that if Paul George walks, they can keep Harden for about 40 mil. They get an MLE. Yeah, so it's the mid-level exception. I think with the Harden contract, too, you re-sign Harden to the same length that Kawhi's signed to, right? You keep it 3 years. You do like 120 for 3 years. That's 40 mil. That's not crazy. Okay. People are saying they think he meant wing, but I'm hearing no, he is wind. Inconsistent wind, we're keeping it. If you were in the stream for the birth of referring to Paul George as an inconsistent wind, we'll know that you're down with Clips and Dip. This is so funny. I'm dying at this. That's so funny. Inconsistent wind is fire. So mean. Old man Yan, does Paul George deserve more than Kawhi? Who am I to say? We need to check on what deserve means. I don't know. He's consistently been the highest paid player on the Clippers. He will be the highest paid player on the Clippers, I think, after these contract negotiations. It's going to happen. Kawhi took less than the max, seemingly out of the goodness of his heart. Paul George doesn't want that. Paul George shouldn't want that. I get Paul George wanting a max. He's an injury guy who's only getting older. It's his last big contract. Joseph Alvarez is hopping in the chat. He's new. Calc is just calculator. Calc is just calculator. He's asking what a calc is. John Reningufo saying, just joined. Hi from Million. How's it going, John? You missed it, but someone called Paul George an inconsistent wind, and it's the meanest thing any of us has ever heard someone say to another player. Shout out Clue Wave Cool for that. LZO asks, sign and trade Paul George to the Rockets for the third pick and Jabari Smith. I don't know, man. This draft is not good, I believe. That's what everyone is saying. I'm not a draft guy. I don't watch I watched college basketball for 1 week. I would not do that in this draft. If they didn't do it for Scoot Henderson, I don't know if they're going to be doing that for a worse draft, it seems. Fair question, but I don't know if that will happen again. Chunk Sampson asking, what do we think about Norm? I'm kind of on the fence of trading because he's not just a playoff player to me, no matter what we get, because I still love Norm. Yeah, Norm is weird. He makes like 20-ish million, 22 million. He's really just he's a shooting threat. That's what he does. He doesn't really run the pick and roll. Sometimes people compare him to Lou Williams in terms of role, not in terms of vibe or in terms of impact, but in terms of role, I think he gets compared to him. But Lou Will could run the hell out of a pick and roll, and Norm Powell isn't asked to do that. He's a little. It's tough to look at his playoff stuff because with a fully healthy team, you'd think if you run a 5-out lineup with Norm and then like PG, Kawhi, Terrence, and then James Harden or something like that, you think it could work, right? That in your head that works on paper. We saw the Powell Rangers lineup where it's, James Harden, Kawhi, PG, Zoo, and Norm Powell. That has a lot of juice to it. But it's a weird situation. I think we got to keep Norm though. He's got 2 more years on his contract. I think the cap's only kind of going up, but that could be an argument to trade him in terms of value. But I love Norm too. It's a weird spot. I think he sticks. I think he sticks. I think he's a good locker room guy. Steve Rodriguez is saying keep Norm. He's also scarred for life from that elbow, so I think they should keep Norm as a favor for that because that's crazy. But no, I think you got to keep Norm. I don't think you re-sign Norm for anything crazy. And if there's a move to be made where the Clippers can get younger at the larger positions than what Norm plays, I think that'd be a trade that you maybe make, right? Would you trade Norm and whatever to get younger at the 4? I probably would. I just don't know if that's even doable. I don't know who's out there who makes $22 million, who's a 4, who's on a team that has too many wings. People talked about trading Norm to the Magic for Jonathan Isaac, which, first of all, Jonathan Isaac wouldn't move to a coastal elite city. And there's also some weird salary cap stuff with that where the Magic couldn't do that trade. There's something with the money coming in from that that they would not be able to take that trade. So, I mean, on paper, that trade makes sense, right? They need a guard who can score. Clippers need to get younger, but it just financially doesn't work. So, yeah, again, the Clippers have no flexibility. It's rock in a hard place. They're most likely at the beginning of the season, this team is going to look the same for the most part, right? I think the backup center thing is weird because you have Daniel Tice, who is not the height of a center, but showed that in limited shooting could stretch the floor a bit for the Clips. And Mason Plumlee, I don't know if he's coming back. He was rough coming back after the injury that he suffered from Julius Randle, weirdly enough. So I don't know if he's coming back. So it's like it's just the big guys that the Clippers should, I think, worry about. It's just getting younger and more size at the 4 and the 5. That's where the Kai Jones comes in, and hopefully he can give you some spot minutes, and you can see his development start a little bit. There's some possibilities-ish. There are guys that are already on this roster. But who knows? Manu Sandoval, new to the chat, commenting, he said, best option right now is to run it back and a couple of the young guys keep developing. I mean, yeah, that's where we are. It's great that you said that's the best option because it feels like that's exactly what the Clippers are going to do and have been doing. You hope you can kind of get a little bit of money off the books. You stretch and, you waive and stretch PJ. That takes you down. Russ doesn't come back. That takes down a little bit. Again, these aren't huge moves. You waive Mason, get that off the books. Justin Russo had a great article about the cap. I'm going to put it in the chat real quick. But yeah, Manu, you're kind of right. Like this is, you hope the young guys keep developing. And you also kind of back to the Ty Lue thing. You also hope that they get those chances. I don't want to sound, like a dick or anything like that, but the G League is great. We've seen these guys dominate in the G League. That's great. Let's get them a little, I know it's hard to find them time, but if PJ's off the team, if Russ is off the team, there's 2 spots where you can get some of these minutes, right? Bones Highland can get that run. You can get limited. If you bring in a new wing, you can give Kobe or Kai Jones these like 3rd string wing minutes and stuff like that. So that is what you're looking for. Here I'm putting in the chat. Here's the Russo article. That's the longest link in the world. I'm very sorry, but that's the Justin Russo article on the Clippers contract situation. It's really good. Read it. It explains it much better than I am explaining it, and it really paints the picture of where the Clippers are stuck. Greggy's saying you also have Coffee and Brandon Boston Jr. Yeah, Amir showed a lot of good stuff last year. The negative wingspan, I think, hurts him, but he showed in a small role, Coffee is a very good contributor. When it gets a little bit, I think we saw his ceiling last year in terms of like what his role should be. But he's a legit contributor. Brandon Boston Jr., I gotta see more. I don't know if he's ready. He's flashy. He has flashes of it, but I just don't know where he fits on this team. People like to say 3-and-D guy, but I'm not sure. This is a good point in the chat. Feels like the Clippers would be bidding against themselves if they give PG a max, because I doubt there really are other teams willing to give him that contract. There's really only 2 it can kind of be, right? It's all the chatter has been 76ers, and like maybe the weird thing with the Knicks. So they're not bidding. Yeah, they kind of have to bid against themselves because of how they're so stuck. Like, this is a great point, Steve. There's not a lot of teams who can give him the max. But what if they did? That's the thing that sucks to say, well, what if they did? And the hang-up specifically seems to be on that 4th year. I think they're okay with giving him 3, but that 4th, it's kind of like, who, bud? That's a lot. So they are bidding against themselves. They're stuck. Like that is the reality of it, which is difficult. John saying, I don't mind running it back. We could have tweaked the rotation against the Mavs, played Ty Sat Tucker. Absolutely. We could have. No idea if Kawhi would have been back had they gotten past the Mavs. There's been no update either on the Kawhi knee thing. A lot of people are kind of assuming we're just going to get an alert saying that like Kawhi Leonard had his knee scoped or something like that. And I think that's probably what's going to happen. I think we're going to get some weird Woj bomb. maybe on July 4th, about like Kawhi getting his knee checked out and that they have optimism or something like that. I have no idea what's going on with Kawhi. Hawaiian Horizon asking, is there any legitimacy about the Chris Paul rumors, or is it just the media stirring the pot? Personally, I don't want to bring in any more guys past their prime. Could not agree more with the second part, Hawaiian Horizon. And I think it's mostly just kind of a bit of random scuttlebutt. I don't think it's huge. I don't think it's super real. I think there is maybe some interest. So I don't know. I don't want him to bring him in either. There's no reason to do that. Oh yeah, I forgot BBJ got hurt in the G League. I hope he can come. That would be great. I hope Brandon Boston can contribute. He was a steal where they drafted him with where he was projected. He had a really tough year in college before he declared. So it would be cool. He has the size, he has the pedigree, he has all that stuff. It's there. So hopefully he can bounce back from the injury. Another guy who got injured is people that have kind of been asking when it comes to the 4 and the 5, like Musa Diabate was drafted. He got hurt. He kind of had some injury luck too. I think he broke his wrist or something like that. It was a hand issue. So, and Musa is incredibly raw for what this Clippers team needs at the 4 and the 5. The Clippers at the backup 4 need an actual defensive backup 5. Need an actual defensive backup 5, not like a raw athletically guy, because we saw what happened to Mason Plumlee, and Daniel Theis has his limitations as well with his size. So I'm really mostly worried about the backup 5 this offseason for the Clippers, because we've just been through. There were times when the combination backup 5 of Theis and Plumlee looked great, and then there were times where it was just completely garbage, and we've just gone through this rough phase of backup 5s ever since Isaiah Hartenstein left, which is a different subject for an angrier day that I don't want to get into. But yeah, the backup 5 thing is a little troublesome. Comment in the stream. I'm fine with the big 3 being the same as long as the playmakers around them are young, or the players around them are young. Yeah, that's the balance the Clippers are attempting to strike. They're doing it very kind of ass over tea kettle would be how I would describe it. The Josh Primo thing made absolutely no sense. He did not need a roster spot, but they're trying. But this is where playing the youth happens. This is where Ty Lue maybe needs to adjust his game a little bit. No, Blood Orange Tears is saying no interest in Hartenstein. We would love Hartenstein. There is no Clippers fan watching, listening, not even watching or listening, who would say no to Isaiah Hartenstein. If Isaiah Hartenstein was on this team, I think most people would think we were winning a championship. No, we would all love Isaiah Hartenstein to be back. The Clippers can't afford him. They can't. There's no money that they can give him. He's unrestricted, which hurts the Clippers because the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to sign Isaiah Hartenstein. It's going to be like heralded as the best signing of the season or something weird. The Clippers can't. They have no money. There is no money for the Clippers to sign Isaiah Hartenstein, unfortunately. That hurts that you brought that up, Blood Orange Tears. I'm going to be honest. I wish they could. I really wish they could. Yeah, I don't know. The Ty Lue thing, which again is why we started this whole live stream. 5 years, $70 million. If you're worried about how much money he's being paid, who cares? It's Steve Ballmer's money. It has nothing to do with how the team operates. Yes, that is incredibly. Old Man Yen saying, off topic, kind of. Hard as half black. Yes, he is. Semi on topic. Thank you, Old Man Yen. Here's some reasonable contract talk. Give Paul George the 4th year. He doesn't want less than the max, though. It seems very clear he wants the max. Because 4 for 190 is a lot less than, what is it? 4 for 221? Yeah. 4 for 221 to 4 for 190, if you're a guy who wants the max, is a bit of a drop off. I'm not pretending that. Let's please don't say if we had that, we would all be happy with $190 million. None of us are as good at, none of us probably deserve $190 million for our athletic feats. Those do seem like reasonable contracts. I think the Clippers offer Harden more though, but not too much more. I think that Harden contract 3 for 120 is like, that's great. Or like 3 for 110 would be cool. I just don't think there's any way that PG takes 4 for 190. Again, I would love that. I would like that, but I don't know. Chunk Sampson liked the signing. Stability for the new stadium. Yes, and my counterpoint is like, again, who is coming in? This is the most veteran team maybe ever constructed in terms of, and I mean that in the age sense. I mean that in the clout with the other players in the locker room sense. Like, this is a veteran ass Clippers team. They're set in their ways in some way, shape, or form, right? You're not bringing in a young upstart coach to coach this team. That would be insane. He would have them running suicides and everyone would be hurt or something weird. And you're not bringing in like a guy who's never been a head coach before. And all the guys who have been head coaches who are available to coach, none of them would really fit, right? You're not letting Ty Lue walk and then signing Frank Vogel to coach this team. It's a good signing. It's not something. There's definitely points to be made about improvements that Ty Lue can make. I'm not going to sit. That's not an issue. He's not a perfect coach. There are issues with playing, the younger guys and things like that. But it's just not a thing you really have. Again, I guess the theme of this live is any wiggle room or space to make. Like, there was no one else who I think can coach this Clippers team. And when I say can, I mean deal with everything surrounding it. You're dealing with a very heavy locker room in terms of just who is on the team, right? Like, it's a heavy locker room. It would be a very difficult team to come in and say, hey, I'm the new guy. Let's do it. The window is kind of closed. Let's try and yank it open again. Yes. Jimmy Carter Peanut. Very funny name. Do you think Ty Lue would re-sign thinking PG and Harden are leaving? I feel like this may point to us keeping the core together. Yeah, there's no way that Ty Lue is signing on to a team that's going to like blow it up or whatever. Again, they can't really blow it up. It'd be a soft demo would be what the Clippers could do. But I don't think he's leaving without 2 of the 3 for sure coming back. They already got Kawhi. But I think all signs and scuttlebutt and sources and chatter and whatever you want to say is pointing to the team bringing everyone back. So I think this is a great point by Jimmy Carter Peanut. I don't think he's re-signing if he didn't think people are coming back. Great point. This franchise is in such a win now mode, and we just don't have the team for it. I think we do have the team for it. There's been some horrible luck, and maybe it won't happen again next year. He says, slamming his hands on the desk. But it is win now mode. We can't pretend like it's not. Every year that the Clippers don't win, it's another 40% pressure added to the win now mode of what this team is, which is very difficult. I don't know. I hope they can win now. I also think there's going to be some moves made if Paul George signs the full max contract. We just have to hope, which is, I guess, the curse of Clippers fans. I think that about wraps it up. If anyone has any other wild takes to post in the chat, I am going to get out of here. This has been a very fun happy hour. It's kind of a slow off season. The Clippers, again, can't do a whole lot. If you missed the Justin Russo article I posted in the chat, scroll up and read about how the Clippers are a little hamstrung. Chunk Sampson asking, does PG's contract mess with Zoo's extension? I don't believe so. I think the Clippers are fine to sign Zoo to whatever they want. I'll probably be proven wrong by someone in the chat, and that's fine. Listen to them, but I don't think it messes with the extension at all because he's been on the team for so long. Greggy wants to know, y'all going broke buying the new team merch? No, my secret is I don't buy team merch. I bought this hat 6 years ago, and I'm wearing an OG Jake Burns shirt with Daniel Oturu on it. I don't buy a lot of team merch. I bought a sweater, and it's a great sweater. I bought the new sweater. They also just had, there's like a 70% off sale or something happening on Clippers Shop, which is weird. So, no, I'm going broke on everything else. Greggy, thank you. Blood Orange Cheers. What is the Clippers calling card? Injuries and hope would probably be what I would say the Clippers calling card is. Injuries and hope. Yeah, that about wraps it up. Don't be an inconsistent wind. Come hang out with us the next time we have a live. Come hang out when my two other co-hosts are here. We are usually triumvirate. It is Adam Osland of AM 570, myself, and Will Updike, who used to host Locked On Clippers with me. We used to do that together. It's a very fun time. Thank you to everyone for hanging out. I'm doing an episode on Friday with Law Murray. We're going to talk Ty Lue. We're going to talk everything, the draft coming up. It's going to be a really fun time. That'll be out kind of Friday, I think afternoon or something like that. Again, shout out to Claw Wave Cool for coming up with the inconsistent wind comment. One of the most brutal things you can call a person. If you call someone an inconsistent wind this week or at any time, hit us up on Twitter at ClippersPod. If you were there for the birth of the inconsistent wind insult, welcome. It's going to be a Clippers thing. It's going to be very fun. The Clippers, it was a good decision to re-sign Ty Lue. Zubac is next, then hopefully Terrence Mann, then hopefully James Harden, and then Paul George either on a max and we trade him, or Paul George on a team-friendly max-ish contract. I am Chuck Mockler. You can find us on Twitter at ClippersPod. You can find me on Twitter at Chuck Mockler. Adam is follow Adam A, and Will is at Will Updike. If you aren't subscribed to our channel, come hang. We are youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. If you're listening to this after I turn this into an audio pod, thank you so much for listening. Hope you're having a wonderful off season.